The heroes gain a new hope, Spinner's secret power is revealed, and All for One only now starts to get serious? Let's talk about all of this and more as we dive right into the newest chapter of My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia Chapter 353 is finally out, and with it not only do we get to see everyone's reaction to Shoto'S alleged defeat of Dabi, but we also get a huge update on the whereabouts and condition of all of the remaining heroes and villains. And let me just say, there are definitely some surprises. But before I begin talking about this chapter, I'm first going to go into a quick summary of what happened last time. And as usual, don't forget to Detroit smash that like button and slide on into that subscribe button's DMs to hit that notification bell. In the last chapter, Mr. Icy Hot Shoto Todoroki unveiled the true potential of his quirk, combining his ice and fire together to create one ultimate new element: Ice Fire. Patent pending, which he used on his dear older brother, the human jerky, Dabi. But as powerful and effective as this move was, Dabi, like the persistent Todoroki he is, refused to back down, and unleashed the full extent of his power, causing massive concentrated streams of fire to erupt from the ground, all while ranting about how he's far too edgy to be a redeemable character. And I gotta say, I kinda agree. However, despite Dabi's unbridled power, with a little help from Endeavor's sidekicks and some motivation from his friends, aka the power of friendship, Shoto exclaimed, "Fuck you, you are redeemable," and used the most powerful move in his arsenal, Great Glacial Aegir, freezing everything in the nearby area, ultimately defeating Dabi. We think. And this is where chapter 353 picks up. This chapter opens up right back at Camino Ward, where Burnin reports to the other heroes in the area that the villain Dabi has finally been detained. In hearing this news, a few of the heroes begin to celebrate and praise Shoto for not only his bravery in facing his older brother, but also for being able to best Dabi's seemingly unbeatable blue flames. However, this celebration is very short-lived, as the heroes' focus quickly shifts back to the massive rampaging Nomu, which is still up and fighting. Forgot about that guy, didn't ya? It's also interesting to note here that as the heroes are fighting the Nomu, a few of them comment how they really are the lucky ones in this war, because they didn't end up against either Kunieda or Ghastly, two uber-powerful Tartarus escapees. Which really makes you wonder, just who exactly are these new villains we have never heard of before this moment, and are the heroes actually more scared of them than Dabi? What the hell is going on? But anyways, before we can learn anything else, the story then cuts to the heroes' base of operations, where we see All Might shed some tears of joy and pride after learning of Shoto's defeat of Dabi. Here, Detective Tsukauchi and All Might also decide that to boost morale, it would be best if All Might informed all of the heroes everywhere of Shoto's victory. And on this note, the story cuts once again, this time to the ruins of Jakku Hospital, where we see Mina Ashido, Mineta, Yui Kodai, Jozu Hononuki, Reiko Yanagi, and Mount Lady fighting off a horde of villains right outside of Gigantamachia's prison. As it turns out, All for One had secretly sent a villain team to Gigantamachia's prison in an attempt to free him. However, the heroes expected this assault, and they caught the villain team by surprise with Kurogiri/Monoma's Warp Gate quirk. Among the villains attacking the prison, we not only see the sludge villain that attacked Midoriya and Bakugo at the very beginning of the series, but also this gas mask villain who publicly announces to the heroes that he will kill them all, just like he killed Neimori Keyama, aka Midnight. Ooh, you shouldn't have said that. In hearing this comment, Mina Ashido turns and glares directly at the villain, but before she can move, Kirishima appears right beside her, and he announces that all the evacuations were successful, so now it's finally time for them to give it their all and stop these villains just like Todoroki. Man, Kirishima and Mina being not only in the same area as Gigantomachia, you know, the guy who connects their past, but the sludge villain and the man who killed Midnight, Horikoshi is really setting this up to be one dramatic confrontation. But before we can see any any of the action, the story shifts to a quick shot of Zero, Sato, Ojiro, and Tsuburaba at Takoba National Stadium, the place where the hero license exam took place, getting hyped up about Shoto's victory. And it also briefly cuts to the floating section of UA, where we see a smirking Bakugo laughing about how it was obvious Todoroki would win. Gotta love that bromance. The story then cuts to Aoyama and Fat Gum back at the parking lot where this war started. Except not only is the entire battlefield seemingly covered in gigantic flowers, but both Fat Gum and Aoyama are facing off against a strange looking figure, who is revealed to be none other than Kunieda, one of the Tartarus escapees the heroes talked about at the very start of this chapter. Kunieda, who is posing atop the flowers like a JoJo's character, comments about how Aoyama is nothing more than Aesop's bat, which is a reference to Aesop's fables, which means he's essentially calling Aoyama a coward who will try to weasel his way into the good books of whoever wins this war, whether it be the heroes or villains, but will ultimately be kicked out and shunned by the winner due to his lack of loyalty. And in response to this harsh criticism while preparing for the battle ahead, Aoyama merely replies with a simple mercy. Kinda badass. And following this, the story then cuts once again, this time over the Central Hospital, where present Mike, Koda, and Shoji are facing off against an army of mutant-type villains led by an absolutely gigantic and jacked Spinner. And it's here where it's revealed in a brief flashback that Spinner, in an attempt to become more powerful and useful to Shigaraki, was given more quirks by All For One. That's right, Spinner is now a multiple quirk wielder. And to be honest, it's looking more and more like he's becoming Shigaraki's very own Gigantomachia. It's also kind of important to note that during this flashback, we also see Dabi deny All For One's offer of gaining more quirks. So, as far as we know, Dabi is still a single quirk user. But back in the present Mike announces the news that Dabi has been defeated, which not only boosts both Shoji and Koda's morale, who are impressed by their classmates' tenacity, but also causes Spinner to fall into a fit of rage, claiming that he doesn't believe the hero's propaganda that Dabi has been defeated, and causing him to command his troops to take back Kurogiri and destroy the status quo for their leader, Shigaraki. Not gonna lie, this Spinner is kinda terrifying. But with the news spread to all the heroes, the story then cuts back to Kamino Ward, where a clearly battered and bruised Todoroki apologizes to Ida for stalling his engines with his ice attack. However, as Shoto and Ida are checking up on one another, the hero tending to Dabi in a panicked voice speaks up, asking why is he still alive? And as he says this, we see a small spherical glimmer of light or flames emerge from Dabi's chest. It looks like it ain't over just yet. But of course, before we can see what exactly happens, the story cuts away, for the final time, thank God, to Gungam Mountain Resort, where we see All For One insulting and berating a seemingly emotionless Endeavor for not being there for the defeat of his own son. And with this, chapter 353 comes to an end, as All For One continues to insult and play mind games with Endeavor while unleashing multiple quirks at the same time from his hands, leaving us with the final comment, "That's why you can't win number 1." As the text on the bottom of the page informs us, All For One remains as calm as ever. What does he know? What does he know? Overall, this was an interesting chapter. We got a nice update on where everyone in Class 1A ended up, and even got some hints that we would be seeing more of some fan favorites such as Kirishima and Mina in the chapters to come. With this current setup, it feels like Midoriya is still going to be out of the picture for quite a while, and in terms of narrative, it seems to be setting up for the villains to start turning back the tide of the war in their favor. Colossal Spinner was definitely a bit of a surprise, but I'm glad they gave him a well-needed power-up to face the heroes with, because let's be honest, Spinner would get his ass beat in seconds by anyone if it wasn't reason for that power-up. But the real question this chapter left us with though was Dabi's defeat. Was that glowing sphere a hint that the eldest Todoroki isn't done yet and that there is a lot more to this fight, or is this going to be Dabi's last stand? One final blast that will kill himself, but also potentially everyone around him. I guess we'll have to find out next time. But let me know what you think of this chapter. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like and comment what you think is going to happen next. For more My Hero content like this, subscribe to the Lunchtime crew. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Plus Ultra.